Hey everybody, welcome back, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to use Git. Now Git is extremely important, whether you're working with a big corporation or by yourself or you're working with a team, regardless whether you're doing it as a hobby or as a job, whatever you do, always use Git. Git is amazing, okay? So I want you to understand that you need to have source control. So you need to be able to go back in time to see in which, before you added a feature or before you built in an authentication system or perhaps before you added a table for a user or whatever you did, whatever feature, whatever bug you did throughout the development process, you can always go back and, in time. It's sort of like how you have Time Machine for a Mac, where you can go back in time to restore a previous version of your Mac. You know what I mean? So Git is extremely important. It's called version control. And Git obviously is it's for version control, but also you can use Bitbucket, which uses Git, and you can also use GitHub. Now, I'm going to use Bitbucket for many good reasons because you can do many private repositories and public repositories for free, as many as you want. You can build as many projects as you want. And it also comes with Atlassian because Atlassian purchased, I believe they bought Bitbucket. And they have amazing software like Jira, for instance, which teaches you how to use, not teaches you, but it allows you to do collaboration with other team members and work on much bigger projects. And even if you're doing it by yourself, you can use Jira for yourself so you can document everything. And there's a ton of things that Atlassian's got that are free, and maybe not a ton, but a lot of functionality. Now GitHub, on the other hand, it's great, and you know what? I love it too. But I'm just going to use Bitbucket for now. You're welcome to use GitHub as well. But believe me, you're not going to regret it. Once you learn Bitbucket, you're going to be so much ahead from many people even graduating university. All right? So I'm going to go right in now, and I'm going to tell you to go to bitbucket.org, and it will redirect you to bitbucket.org/product. Now, what I want you to do is either click on Get Started. If you don't have an account, make an account, or or just log in. I'm going to log in because I already have an account. Okay? So I click on login, and it's going to redirect me to atlassian.com. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to enter my email, which is development@theaworld.com. I'm going to continue. And I already have my password set in, so I'm going to click login. When I click login, guys, I want to show you an example of a project, for instance, a repository, which is basically a project that I've been working on out of my Macintosh. So what you want to do is, for instance, I'm going to click on repositories here. And I'm going to just select one of my repositories. Like this is Local Tribe. I've been working on this app for a couple of years now. And if you look at the commits, this is what I'm talking about. So all these commits are basically commits that I added an Ajax for end date. I improved the reservation form. As you can see, if I want to go back to this version of the application, I can do that. And also in addition to that, you have different branches. So if you have a branch that your buddy's working on or your team member in the corporation that you're working in, you might, click like this and see, Michael's branch. Or you might say, a new feature, reservation branch, or add sidebar to menu branch, or whatever it is. And what happens is developers from, for instance, a middle developer might be working on a reservation branch. So what he'll do is she may pull this code here that you see over here, all this code in the source. They'll pull it into their Mac and they'll work on, and then they'll create a new branch. They'll pull from the master branch, create a new branch in their own computer, and work on a reservation branch. And then once it's complete, they'll push it, and then you can literally click on one of these branches, and you can see what type of what new files have been added, what logic, what code, and so on and so forth. You see what I'm saying? And then the senior developer, or the lead developer, that they will go over this branch, and they'll see that all the work is good. They'll test it, it's fine, and then they'll push it over to the test server, and they'll test it. And if it's good, then they will, of course, merge it into the master branch, and then make it, and then push the master, or pull the master branch into the live server. Okay, and that's how web development works. So do not skip this part, please. Do not skip this part, whether you're going to be doing interviews to get a new job or whether you're going to be working on your own application. Do not skip this part. It's very important. And I want you to use Bitbucket. I know you probably have GitHub and you love it, but I want you to use Bitbucket. Believe me, just use Bitbucket, okay? All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to open terminal. And also what I want you to do is I want you to go to Finder. And earlier I was talking about the project section. I moved my folder here on the side so I can have a shortcut. So I'll grab pet adoption and the folder pet adoption, grab it. Actually, before I even do that, I need to open VS Code. So I'm gonna go into VS Code like this, VS Studio Code. And I'm gonna double click on that. So I'm going to open via, you can go to your applications and double click on that. And obviously this is already there. Like the pet adoption is already there. But in case you're confused, I can just close that and open Finder, grab pet adoption, and drag it over to VS Code. And that's going to open the folder VS Code. Okay? So now we don't have get initialized. Okay? We don't have get initialized, and I'm assuming that you have not created an SSH key in the past. But if you have created an SSH key in the past, you probably have it inside your user. So I'm going to do command +++. Let me just make this little, it's a bit ridiculous here. So you can see what I'm doing, okay? I'm going to do clear. Obviously, everything is clear. And I'm going to do pwd. I'm inside my user. And first thing you want to do is initialize Git by going first. We need to go to our application. But there's a couple of things we got to do first, okay? And it's very, very, very simple, okay? It's extremely simple, and what I want you to do is we can certainly do an SSH-key generate and generate a public key and a private key, okay? We can do that. But for now, I want you to just follow my steps. So first, you're going to do a git. So go inside, you go do a git. You may already have it, and believe me, if you don't have it, if the sequence of events are not the same as mine, don't panic, just watch this. Grab a cup of coffee, watch it, and you can follow along. But in case you run into issues, you don't have to do anything crazy. I'll follow up with you, okay? So git config. So first of all, you wanna config your git settings, okay? So you're going to git config -- global for the whole, for your entire, for your computer, okay? And -- global, and what you want to do is first you want to set your username, and then you want to set your email. So you put user dot is it user? Yeah, user dot name followed by a space followed by double quotes inside. I'm going to put my name, eliasglyptis, okay? And next, what you want to do, hit enter. And then what you want to do is you want to do git config -- global, and then you want to put user dot email, and followed by a space with double quotes. Inside double quotes, you're going to put your email. So I'm going to put my email there. I'm going to put development at theaworld.com. All right, and I'm going to hit enter. And next, what you want to do is generate an SSH key. And I'll tell you, you're probably thinking, oh, where'd you get all this information from? I'll tell you. With Git, you can Google Git, how to configure a username in Git. That's simple as that. And you'll probably find the documentation of Git, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Okay, so next thing you want to do is do an SSH. SSH, if you were to do SSH-key generate like this, it's gonna work and it's fine. But instead, I want you to do SSH-key generate space -t space RSA space --C, and then your email. Okay, and inside I'm gonna go in development at theaworld.com, like that. And I'm gonna hit enter. Now, if you hit enter, and if you already have an SSH key, don't worry about it. Just leave it as is, or you can override it. As long as you're not using that SSH key to log into like your AWS, Amazon Web Services server that you're hosting a website, or your app, or your DigitalOcean server where you're hosting your own website. Because obviously, people are using, we have a server here in our Mac, but we can also have a server in DigitalOcean or GoDaddy or AWS. And sometimes we don't always use passwords with the root, so we use SSH keys to log in. So if you have an SSH key already, a public and private key, and you're using it, you know that you're using it to log into another server, or perhaps to log into GitHub or something like that, then leave it alone. Or in the future, or you can override it and then go back to your GitHub account and replace that key. You see what I'm saying? With the new one. So leave it alone. If it asks you to overwrite, just leave it alone, I suggest. Okay. So I'm gonna hit enter now because I know I don't have an SSH key inside my Thea tutorials folder. I don't have a .ssh key folder. So I'm gonna hit enter and it's gonna prompt me to create one. Okay, so say generating a private and public key, sure enough, and it's saying enter the file in which you want to save the key. Now I don't want to enter any files where I want to save the key. I want to save it in Thea tutorials. That's what I want. So inside the Thea tutorials folder, there's going to be a .ssh folder, as you can see here, and inside that folder there's going to be two keys. One is going to be the ID_RSA.pub, and the other key is going to be the private key. Okay, that's what .pub stands for public. Okay, oops. Okay, so after that, it's going to say enter. I'm going to leave it alone. I'm just going to hit enter again. And it says creating users, it's just creating a folder, and that's it. And enter a passphrase. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to hit enter a passphrase again. I'm going to hit enter again. I'm going to leave it alone. And for you, if it's asked you to overwrite, just say type N and exit. If you have an SSH folder already. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, what do I do next? Well, if you already have an SSH folder in there, that means you and I, we both are in the same, we're both in the same page, okay? And if you didn't have an SSH folder and you followed these instructions and you did not have to, and you were not prompted to override anything or overwrite anything, then that means we're both in the same page as well. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do an ls. And if you do an ls, basically you're listing everything in that folder and you're not going to see the .ssh. But what you're supposed to do is type in ls space -la, which means list space -list all. So it's going to list even the hidden files. And .ssh, believe it or not, is a hidden folder. And it's right here, .ssh. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to change directory space into .ssh. And then I'm going to do, and as you can see here, it's .ssh. I'm in that folder with this user, okay? Now I'm going to do ls, and it's going to show me the two files. And the one file that we're concerned about is the ID_RSA.pub. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually read this file. We're going to see what's in that file. And that file is going to be a key. And that's the public key that we need to install inside Bitbucket, okay? Now, you really need to follow this. Don't be logging into Bitbucket to your terminal with a password and email. That's wrong, because in the future, you might want other people to add their keys in your Bitbucket settings account, and you want them to, push with you and create their own branches and help you out with your project. Okay, so please, you don't want to be giving people your password and email every time they want to log into to make a push for you. Okay, in case they're working in one of the branches. All right. So it's really important that you follow me along and you do this correctly. Now I'm going to stay here where we are. We're supposed to actually read this, and I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to copy ID_RSA.pub. I'm just going to copy it, and I'm going to read it. And to read it, you need to do a cat and then a space followed by the ID_RSA.pub. And when you do that, it's just going to say, it's going to show you what's in that file. I'm going to hit enter. And what's in that file is this SSH, RSA, all the way to here. That's the key. Literally, that's the key. From beginning to end. You copy that, and boom, you have your key. So I'm going to stop here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to Google, to Chrome, and I'm going to show you something. Now, you need to create a repository, right? All right. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do a project first. We're gonna first go out of you're probably over here and you don't see any projects for yourself. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna click on create, okay? And I'm gonna create a new repository. You can create a project too, and the workspace is gonna be eliasglyptis. The project, I'm going to have to select one. All right. I guess I'll create a new project, and I'm going to call this, oh boy. So I guess I'm just going to create a new project. I'm going to call this open source apps. Open source, I'm going to call it my open source, you know what? Thea World. I'm going to call it Thea World Tutorials. Thea World Tutorials. Okay. All right. I don't even know why I'm. I guess Thea World Tutorials is fine. I'm still, I can't make a decision right now. I suppose Thea World Tutorials is fine. And the repository name, I'm gonna call it pet adoption. Okay, pet adoption. There we go. Pet adoption. Easy. And then it's gonna say include a README file. I'm gonna say yes with tutorial for beginners. That's important to have that, okay? Do that, believe me. In the advanced settings, what you wanna do is I'm gonna say something, because look, this, obviously, I talked about this earlier, pet adoption. So I'm gonna write this open source application is meant to be eventually launched publicly and allow people to adopt pets, okay? Adopt pets from all over the world using flight volunteers, okay? Willing to bring the pets to their new owner, okay? So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow only private forks, allow forks. I'm going to click on allow forks. This is not important, but I'm going to say allow forks anyway, okay? Now for the language, I'm going to select Ruby, okay? So instead of looking for it, you can just type in Ruby or just select it like that. And I'm going to click on create repository. So now you've created the repository, and we may run into some issue in the future with this, but don't worry about it. We'll fix it, okay? So this is eliasglyptis, Thea World Tutorials, and so we added the SSH key inside our local environment. We created a branch here to push our code from our local to our remote. This is our remote. What you see in front of you right now, that's our remote. And we have an SSH key, but what are we doing with the SSH key? We need to add it in the Bitbucket global settings, guys. The Bitbucket global settings. Don't forget that. Not in this, don't go to repository settings. That's wrong. Don't go there because that's just the repository settings. So we need to go to the global settings. And I have added this in our global settings, but my power cut out and my tutorial got ruined. So I'm repeating this again for the second time. So what I want you to do now is you don't have to do what I'm doing right now, or I'll just pause the video so I can remove that old SSH key. Okay, great. So I removed the old SSH key that I had. Now, obviously, I'll show you in a minute. Now, I want you to go back to terminal, and what I want you to do is, if you didn't do this, I want you to do it. I'm going to type in clear. Okay, I hope you are inside the .ssh. Okay. I hope you're in there. Go to pwd. So make sure you're inside the Thea Tutorials /.ssh. If you're not there, you got to go back to the section where I got there. So you're going to change directory cd space.ssh, and you're going to see, and then you're going to see this here. All right. So what are we doing again? We are copying. I'm going to do cat. We're not copying. We're going to read it. Cat what is it? Cat. I think it's cat.rsa underscore, okay, cat ID underscore rsa.pub. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Cat space ID underscore rsa.pub. And we're going to copy this from the beginning here, right from here, all the way down, not all the way down, all the way to here. Okay? So Command C for copy or Control C on your PC. So you're going to copy that. All right? And then what you're going to do is come over here and I want you to click on your personal settings here, not here, right over here, and click on personal settings, okay? In the personal settings, I want you to click on SSH keys. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put the public key inside Bitbucket. And we have a private key and a public key inside our Mac, our local environment. So I'm going to click on add key. And in case you're wondering about the generate SSH key, hang on a second. Hold the thought. Hold where you are. Just right click here and open link in a new tab and leave that there, okay? Leave that tab there. I'm going to come back to it in a second. Here, I'm going to give it a meaningful name. And the meaningful name I'm going to give, I'm going to say Thea Tutorials, SSH key for Thea Tutorials MacBook Air. There we go. So I know it's a meaningful name. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to paste that in. I'm going to paste in what I copied from my terminal, which is my public ID underscore RSA. And then I'm going to click Add Key. Now the key has been added. Everything is awesome. Now if you click here on the second tab that I told you earlier, you were probably thinking, where are you getting this SSH generate? And if I'm in a PC, it's not working. What I want you to do, if you're on a Windows, of course, you're going to click on the command prompt, git bash. If you're on a Mac, you're going to click on terminal. And look, it's showing you here, SSH-key generate. If you're on Linux, you're going to type in, you're going to click on the Linux. Here, that's the same thing on a PC too. You would type in SSH-key generate. And the reason why we said SSH earlier, -key generate, and then with a space, with a -d, RSA, that's just so we can configure, so we can configure our username and our email. But you actually don't even have to do that, okay? You don't have to do that. If you don't do that, you'll automatically get the username inside Bitbucket. When you make a commit in the future, you'll see, I'm gonna click here on repositories, okay? And I'm gonna just click back on my repository, the one I just made, pit adoption. So I'll show you in a second. Just please follow along with me. Like, you can just type in SSH-key generate, and you don't have to type in that other command that I told you. You don't even have to type in the git config earlier, --global for the user.name. If you don't have to do that. So SSH-key generate, right? That will automatically create an SSH folder for you, and a public and private key pair in which you can later add the public key pair here in your settings. So I'm going to go back to terminal now. I'm going to hit clear. So what we want to do now is we want to get out of this SSH folder. So I'm going to do change directory ... So change directory space ... It'll take me back one directory, which will take me to Thea Tutorials. Now I'm going to do change directory to projects / pet adoption. Okay. And here I am. I'm inside the pet adoption. Now we need to initialize Git. That's so important. We need to initialize Git, and then we need to also put we need to add all the files that we created inside inside our Git add all. So we need to add all the files that we created inside of Git. And you're probably thinking, which files did we create? We created this application here. Earlier in the previous section, we created pet adoption. We created Rails new generate. Rails new pet adoption. We ran that command, we created a Rails application, and we have the database and everything. So that's what we need to do. We need to literally add all these files inside. And you probably have a notification here with a yellow thing with probably something like 100 and something things that you haven't added. That's because you haven't added them yet. I don't, because I wasn't experimenting. I was doing this tutorial before, but my power cut off. So too bad for me. Yeah. So I'm gonna click back on Chrome here. I'm gonna click on terminal, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna initialize Git. So this is how you initialize Git. You do a git init to initialize it, and then it's saying initialize empty Git repository in pet adoption. Okay, good. That's great. All right. And if you do git init and again, guess what's gonna happen? It's gonna say reinitialize existing Git repository. So you may have already gotten this right off the get-go, this reinitialize existing Git repository. You probably had that right from the beginning. I didn't. I know why, because again, earlier I was working on the tutorial and I had to delete the folder that I had already made, thinking that video was going to be saved, and it wasn't, so I lost that video. All right, so the git space in it, that's how you initialize it. The next thing you want to do is come back to Visual Studio. And I guarantee you, I'm going to see exactly what you guys saw earlier, which is the 92 files that need to be added. And the reason why they're green, is because they have not been added. That's just like a flash. That's telling you, hey, all this, you see that U? That means it's, what does U stand for again? I think it stands for untracked. Yeah, so U stands for untracked, okay? T stands for tracked, and so on and so forth. It's pretty straightforward. All you got to do is just not feel intimidated by it. Whenever you see a U, it means it's untracked. All right, so come back to terminal, and what we want to do is we initialize Git, and we want to add all the files, okay? And that's what you do. It's like a box. You have a box, you're adding all the stuff that you got inside the box before you mail it, okay? So Git init means get me the box, okay? Now Git add all, or Git add space dash dash all, or Git add space period means add everything you got here on the left side inside the box. Okay, that's a way to remember it. So I'm gonna do a Git space with a period. That's the easiest way to remember that. Git space period is Git add all, or you can also do Git add dash dash all. You could do that too. But I'm gonna do is Git space add period. That's all you need to do. And if I do that and hit enter, that's what happened. So look, before I even did that, I should have done something like Git status. And if I do Git status now, you're gonna see that everything is green. Why is everything green? Everything is green because it's been added, but it's still waiting to be committed. So that's the next command. Always remember, Git init, you only have to run it once in your life when you initialize a project for that particular project, okay? Now Git add space, this command right here, Git add space period, means add everything inside the box. Add all these files in there. That's what that means. Now Git commit, now this command that's coming up, Git space commit space dash M, which means for message, space, double quotes, and go in the middle of the double quotes, and then you can type whatever message you want. Okay? Now, you're probably thinking, why do I need to know all this? You need to know all this because right now, I'm going to type in a meaningful message. And this meaningful message is going to say, initialized our pet adoption application, our awesome application for pet adoption. Pet, okay, adoption. There we go. And in case you, whoops, there we go. That's what I'm doing right now. This means, like, from here, git commit -m initialize our awesome web application. This here is a command that's going to basically going to add and pack everything that you got inside a box, which is saying, hey, I want to add everything, all these files that you see here. Here it's saying changes to be committed, use git rm, don't worry about that. Where it says no commits yet, hey, no commits yet, here's all your files that have not been committed. And here what we're doing is saying git commit -m initialize our awesome application for pet adoption. In the future, on our next, while we do authentication, once we finish the authentication logic and the authentication work, we're going to do git commit -m with a message of completed authentication with Facebook. You see what I'm saying? So I'm going to hit enter now. And as you can see, all these files turn into white. And if I do a git status now, git status, and hit enter, it will say on branch master, nothing to commit. But this is still the master that's inside our local git. It's inside our local branch master. And what we need to do is we need to push this right into Bitbucket. Okay, we need to push it to a third-party vendor called Bitbucket. Okay, just like in GitHub, it's the same thing, it's just two different companies. All right, so that's like mailing out your box after you packed it. It's like mailing it out into the warehouse. Okay, to be stored. You got it? So that's how you remember it. So it's git init. You're gonna do this for the first time, only to initialize git, to get the git folder prepared, everything, or just to make sure that it's there. The second command, which is git add space dot, and the third command is git commit. You want to give an explanation as to what you're doing. Basically, you're packing everything inside a box. Okay, and now on the fourth command I'm about to do, you only have to do it once for your application. Per application, do it once, not per on your Mac. I'm saying every time you make a new application, you're gonna run this command too. Okay, so what you want to do is come back to the Chrome browser, And what you want to do is you want to add the origin to the master. You want to add what you got on your Mac or on your PC into here. So what we're going to do is click on clone, and the one thing that you are concerned about right now, do not go to HTTPS. Do not go to HTTPS. Don't start a repository with always start with SSH. We've done the correct thing. We've added our SSH keys, and we're good to go with SSH. Don't use HTTPS, all right? So make sure you're on SSH here. I want you to zoom in, and I just want you to have a look. We're not going to do a git clone because we're not cloning what we're seeing in Bitbucket. We want to push, right? In the future, one of your teammates might want to clone, but that's a different story, okay? So what I want you to do is copy from git at bitbucket.org all the way to the end of git. Just get that, okay? Do a Command C to copy it, all right? So copy that section there, close that, all right? And what you want to do now is you want to come back to terminal, and you want to do a git remote push origin. That's the command you want to do. Actually, not git remote. Yeah, it's git remote add origin. Okay, so you want to do a git. Do you want me to do a clear first? There, clear. So do a git remote. So basically, we're saying git remote, which is remote means my Bitbucket account. Okay, so git remote. I want you to add. Okay, git remote add space origin. Did I spell that correctly? Origin. Okay, and then space, and then paste in what you copied earlier. So hit enter, and you did, and that's what happened now. Like, you have added that origin. Basically, that's where you want your work in your Mac to be pushed there, but you haven't pushed yet. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to do a git push uorigin to master. So you want to do a git push followed by a space and a dash and a u, okay, with a space and then master. And we only have a master branch right now. We don't have any other branches. But if you're working on, like, Mark's branch, hey, you would be pushing to Mark's branch so that your senior developer, he can pull it from Bitbucket and he can check your work, that sort of thing. All right, so that's why I'm explaining everything the way I would, we're inside a bunch of friends hanging out and just working together. And I don't want to make this so robotic where do this and do that. And I just want to explain it the way how it is in real life, right? So git push dash origin master. So that means that, hey, everything I got here, I want you to push it into this. That's why we added this origin. So we basically with git remote add origin, we added this origin. Which means that we want to go there, which is, you'll be surprised. Okay, this works awesomely. So git push dash u. Oh boy, did I even get this right? U origin. No. Oh boy, I hope you didn't hit enter. So it's git push dash u origin master. Okay, git push dash u origin master. Hit enter. And it's going to ask that, hey, this is the first time you're doing this. You sure you want to continue? I'm going to say yes. Now, when you say yes, there might be an issue. And if there is an issue, don't you worry about it. I'm going to help you with it. Type in yes, hit enter, and it's saying, okay, updates were rejected because the remote contains work that you... Okay, now if you get all this, like I'm getting it, or maybe you're getting it a little differently, don't worry about it, all right? I'm going to show you how to fix it. The reason why what's happening is, Git is saying, look, you already have a branch here, and you've already pushed this README file, and that's the problem that we did, is we put a README file because we did an initial commit with README by adding the README file, which is basically here, all this. All right. I knew what I was doing. I knew this was going to happen, and in the future, you don't have to put README. You can put README files later. So, hey, I'll show you how to. You're going to have to override it. And don't do this in the future when someone else is pushing while you're overriding their work. You don't want to do that, okay? You want to make another branch and push into that branch. So please, you can use it now because it's the first time we're creating this application and first time pushing into a remote repository. So, and it's yours, so it's okay. But in the future, don't do what I'm about to do. Only if you initialize a project just now and you're doing it, all right? So, And again, there's many other exceptions to use -- force, and I'm going to use it now. So I'm going to just repeat again. I'm going to hit the up arrow key to go to my last command that I pushed. And after master, put a space and go -- force. Hit enter. And that's going to like basically, look, counting objects, 104 done, delta compression, blah, 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 compress objects, writing objects, remote resolving deltas, da, da, da. And then you got the bitbucket.org, Thea World, / of course, yours is going to be with your name, your username. There we go. So we got this. This is the commit number, which is 5C49EA8. That's the one. And that's being pushed to master. And guess what? If we, do a git status like that, we're going to see, hey, your branch is with master, origin master, and everything is clean. Now, if we come back here and we refresh this here, you're going to notice something. If you go to commits here, you're going to notice, oh, there we go. We got eliasglyptis who pushed the commit 585CA8B. You may have a username that your Mac had in case you didn't follow the very first step, which is the config step, so the user.name at the global setting. You may have, and this might be, the author might be the name of your Mac, all right? So, but don't worry about it. As far as learning is concerning right now and using Bitbucket, you don't even have to worry about this, okay? So that's my initial commit. And if you click on this commit, you're gonna notice a couple of things. Not a couple, you're gonna notice a lot of things. We've just pushed an entire Rails application. Look, if you look here and the files change, it says 92. Look, and the A stands for added. So added this file with 1 line of code, added the git ignore with 36 lines of code, the Ruby version with 1 line of code, the gem file with 54 lines of code. And here, in regards to changes into the file, there's nothing. It's like, meaning like this file was not like changed or anything. So it says 0 lines removed, 36 lines added. Okay, and I'll show you. Look at the gem file. It's got 54 lines. If I zoom out and I come back here, you'll see at the bottom every single file is shown. So git ignore is shown. Gem file, look, from first line of code all the way to the bottom is 54 lines of code. So you can literally figure out exactly what happened, and you can even compare them if you ever modified a file. Okay, so that's basically the commit. It says, hey, this is what happened in the commit. And please, don't ever feel intimidated. Just sit back and just look at everything. Okay, like I can click on, for instance, let's look at the gem file. If I click on the gem file, it will open the gem file. You know, it will just not open, but it will take me down there like this. You know, take me to whichever file I clicked on. All right, so don't be intimidated by this. It's so simple and easy. All right, and I want you to all say it to yourself. It's all simple and easy. It's just a matter of reading docs or finding the right tutorials or finding the right guidance. So we have pushed now, and we can click on the source, and you will notice in the source it's going to look exactly the same, except for the files that we have ignored in git ignore. Okay, as you can see everything here, and the README file that we're going to change later. But in regards to all these files, it's the same as in your Visual Studio Code. As you can notice, also in Visual Studio, everything is not green anymore, and there is no notifications. There's no notifications. Everything is there. All right, so because everything has been pushed to Git. All right, now I'm going to click back on the Chrome browser, and I'm going to just click on source here. All right, so we've done Bitbucket. What's next? What's next is we are going to start the authentication system for Facebook, and also authenticate, get the user to log in, log out, edit profile, edit name, all that stuff, and also be able to log in or create an account with an email and password. But before we do that, on the next section, actually, we're going to start working on installing Bootstrap, which is an HTML framework, and we're going to install jQuery so that we can make the views look beautiful, like website development. Okay, we're going to use that in our views. So I'll see you guys in the next tutorial in installing jQuery and Bootstrap using Yarn, and I can't wait to see you in the next section. Okay, and I believe I have covered everything, yeah, I think I've covered everything in regards to Bitbucket, initializing, and pushing. And I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching. See you later.